Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome back to another one of my FutureFight Vanguard videos. I'm your host, Josh, from Cardfight Empire, and thank you for joining me today. So before I get right into the video, I'm going to cast a vote, or are those the words I want to say? Yeah, I want to say cast a vote, because I need a vote on how you guys would prefer for me to record my video trip to Nats. So do you guys prefer like a blog form, or would you guys rather follow along on like Instagram, get short update Instagram videos whenever I'm doing something? Or comment down in the section below and let me know how you would prefer to view that, because I can do videos like every night, I think, while I'm there, as long as the internet's good at my hotel and stuff like that. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about the Spike Brothers GB8 deck in our FutureFight. So we decided to, I know that there is a Spike Brothers GB8 deck that already exists called Crazy 8, where you basically rush to get to GB8. I did not want to do that version just because that version's already popular and it's not really that fun to play, in my opinion. So I decided to go with Dudley's. It's like a well-known fact that I don't really like Spike Brothers, or I don't like playing them at all, but this build is actually very, very fun to play, which should tell you guys something, honestly, about it. Like, it's really great. But moving right into the deck list, we have 8 grade 3s. Our first 4 grade 3s are Dudley Jessica. So Dudley Jessica, this card is amazing. Like, amazing. Like, it doesn't look like all that from the start of using it, but really it becomes like, it's one of the best cards in the deck, in my opinion. So what Dudley Jessica does is Generation Break 2, all of your units with Dudley in its name in your front row get plus 2,000 power. Now this ability might look simple, but it also includes your Vanguard, so your Vanguard becomes a 13k base on defensive turns, which is really, really good against things that attack you for little attacks over and over and over again, like Gear Chronicle. So then we have its on stride skill as well. It has during your turn, when your G unit with Dudley strides onto your Vanguard, you search your deck for up to 1 card with Dudley in this name, call it to open rearguard shuffle, call it to open rearguard circle, shuffle your deck, and this unit gets plus 5,000 power until the end of the turn. So very, very solid card, just gives you a +1 just for striding. So I guess you could consider it a break even, considering that you drop a card to stride. Then we have 4 Dudley Turbolaptor, or Turbo Lappler. So what Turbo Lappler does is our backup grade 3 in this deck. We don't really like riding it, but it's not bad if we do happen to ride it. So it has a once per turn Generation Break skill. So its first skill is once per turn Generation Break 1. When your unit with Dudley in its card name is placed on rearguard circle during the battle phase of this turn, this unit gets plus 5,000 power. So Dudleys are, Spike Brothers in general are all about placing units on the board during battlefield. So Dudleys do that even more efficiently, kind of. So a lot of them have effects that are based off of them being called in the battle phase, or units being called in the battle phase, etc. So it's not a bad skill, even though you won't ever use it because you always want to be on a stride. So its second skill is a stride skill. So actually both Dudleys have stride skills, which is amazing. So during your turn, when your G unit strides, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets a skill until the end of the turn. So the skill says whenever your rearguard with Dudley in its name attacks, you can Soul Blast 1. And if you do, the unit that attacks gets plus 5,000 power. And then at the end of the battle, you put that unit into your soul. So something to be noted with Turbo Lappler is if you use Turbo Lappler and Dudley Geronimo in unison, like together, then you can choose to put it to the bottom of your deck or to the soul at the end of the battle, which is really good because to me, you want your attackers in your deck in this deck. So that when you go into your GB8 turn, you have like a lot of units to call, basically. So we have 4 Dudley Ingram. So what Dudley Ingram does is during your battle phase, when your other unit with Dudley is placed on the rearguard circle, it gets plus 3,000 power. So it's kind of like a Grosnay in Shadow Paladin, if you guys know what that card is. But basically, it just gains 3,000 power every time you call a Dudley. So what that means is during your GB8 turn, if you just have one of these on a column, and then you're just calling over and over and over again from your GB8, like this card is getting massive amounts of power. So it's a very good card. Then we have 4 Dudley Mason. Dudley Mason is kind of like our grade 2 rush card, or like what we want to ride when we ride to grade 2, because it has a Vanguard and Rearguard skill. So it's good on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle. Basically, when its attack hits a Vanguard, then you can counterblast 1, choose a Spike Brother card from your hand and put it into your soul. And then if you do, you search for 1 Spike Brother card and call it to an open Rearguard Circle, then shuffle your deck. So you basically get to like exchange out draw triggers in your hand and stuff like that, because we run quite a bit of them. So you get to change out draw triggers and stuff in your hand for a Rearguard that you actually want. And sometimes it also allows you an extra attack, depending on whether you're calling to front or back row. So then we have 3 Dudley Douglas. So what Dudley Douglas does is when this unit is placed onto a Rearguard Circle during the battle phase, and you have a Spike Brother Vanguard, then you can counterblast 1, and this unit gets plus 5,000 power. So very solid card, pretty basic, just counterblast 1 when it's called during the battle phase, plus 5,000. Works very well with the GB8 because it can attack for 24 by itself. Then we have 4 Dudley Jetter. This card is amazing as well. This card says at the beginning of your ride phase, if you have a Vanguard with Dudley in its card name, then you can pay the cost and retire it. And then until the end of the turn, any stride that you stride into that has Dudley in the name is a free stride. So basically this card is like our stride fodder for the deck, since we're mostly only going into Dudley strides ever, except when we go into the GB8 and Dirty Picaro. And Sabreeze we don't ever go into unless we're paying a different cost for Sabreeze. So yeah, very solid card. Then we run Kissmark Alba. I did run the Quintet wall for Dudleys, and I didn't like it because you deck out too fast with the version that I was trying to build. And a lot of times I was just wishing that I had a PG in my hand when I had them, so I did switch them to the unflip PG. Then we have 4 Dudley Daisy. So what Dudley Daisy does is it's the same as the grade 1 version of Dudley Douglas. So you counterblast 1 when it's placed on the Rearguard Circle during the battle phase, and you have a Spike Brother Vanguard. You counterblast 1, and then this unit gets plus 5,000 power. So it becomes 12k, Douglas becomes 14k. So very solid card. Then we run 2 Acrobat Verdi. This is our actual stride fodder that counts as a grade 3 in our hand. So we run some of these because we do run Mecha Trainer as our starter. That allows us to search up to any grade 1 or less, which usually we search a grade 1. So if we need Acrobat Verdi, we can go get it. If we need Dudley Jetter, which is usually my default to go get, we go get it. Or if we need a Daisy, but you really don't want to call Daisies out, or you really don't want to search out Daisy with Mecha Trainer because it works best when you play it from your deck. So then we have 1 Mecha Trainer. What Mecha Trainer does is you can counterblast 1 and retire it, and then you search your deck for up to 1 grade 1 or less Spike Brother card and put it to your hand. So you can also get a PG with this. You can get Dudley Jetter. You can just like kind of feel out your matchup, know what your matchup is, and then grab something according to the matchup. So very good card. Then we run 12 draw triggers, all vanilla draw triggers, and the reason is because Spike Brothers kind of minuses itself to get its abilities, like you're shoving things into soul constantly. So with this, like at least you're checking draw triggers, and then you're able to check draw triggers and then just shove the draw triggers into your soul for the cost of your abilities. So pretty good card. Then we run 4 Reserver Linus. So what Linus does is when you go into Terrible Linus using it, which is the new G Guardian, you can put this card into your soul. So it gives you soul fuel. Not that we need it really in this deck because there's plenty of soul fuel. Then we run 4 Sadistic King Dudley Caligula. So what Dudley Caligula does is you counterblast 1, you choose 2 cards from your hand and put them into your soul, and you choose a Dudley Caligula from your G-Zone and turn it face up. And then when this unit attacks a Vanguard, that's when you can pay the cost. If you have a Dudley Heart, you can look at the top 11 cards of your deck, and then you choose up to 3 cards with Dudley in its name, call them to open Rearguard Circles, up to 3 open Rearguard Circles, and then they get plus 2,000 power until the end of their turn. So this card turns your like really bad hand of like a lot of draw triggers into a solid field structure. Because if you go into it first stride, you're able to just shove 2 draw triggers into your soul and then get 3 units for it usually that are actually solid units. Next up, we run 4 Great Warrior Dudley Geronimo. So what Dudley Geronimo does is you counterblast 1 and you flip a Dudley Geronimo face up from your G-Zone. And then if you have a heart with Dudley in its name, until the end of the turn, this unit gets an ability. And it actually gets 2 abilities, depending on how many cards you have face up in your G-Zone. So if you're using this card as your first stride, it only gets 1 ability that says, when your rearguard attacks, this unit gets, or that unit gets plus 5,000 power, and then at the end of the battle it goes to the bottom of the deck. And then if you, this is like second stride or more, or if you G-guarded first and then went into stride, all of your rear guards can attack the back row, or can attack from the back row to their Vanguard. So really good. Like this Dudley Geronimo allows for 5 attacks most of the time, because you can attack 3 from the back row, 2 from the front row, and then the 6th attack will be your Vanguard or something like that, or altogether including your Vanguard you'll have 6 attacks. You don't always want to necessarily attack with all your rear guards first, but maybe attack with a few rear guards first and then leave some for triggers to go on to. So then we run one of the GB8 Rampage Evil Rogue Hellheart 8. So the reason why we only run one Hellheart 8 is because if you ever go into this card, they're most likely dead. Like I haven't fought a person that survived Hellheart 8 yet, so yeah, they mostly always die. But Generation Break 8, when any unit attacks, including Hellheart 8 himself, you can choose one of your units, and until the end of the turn, it gets plus 10,000 power and a skill that says at the end it gets a rearguard skill. So keep in mind that you can add 10,000 power to your Vanguard, but it won't do anything with this skill. So at the end of the battle that this unit attacked or boosted, you can pay the cost, which is shoving a card from your hand into the soul and the chosen card that got 10k into your soul. And then you search your deck for a card, call it to open rearguard circle, and shuffle your deck. So you're basically just like, it downs your hand every time you use it, but basically allows you an attack for every card that you have in your hand, which is really good with all the draw triggers that we run. So then we run one Great Villain, Dirty Picaro. I didn't really go into Great Dirty Picaro during my testing games, but it's still very much a strong card to keep around in case we ever do need it. But you counter boss 2, you choose a card from your G-Zone, turn it face up, and then you choose a card from your soul and you put it into, or you choose a card from your hand and put it into your soul. Then when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you can search for up to 1 card from your deck for up to each face-up card in the G-Zone. So what that means is if you have 3 cards face up in the G-Zone, then you get to call 3 from your deck. And since you could just get to call it to, you call it to open rearguard circle, so be aware of that. Like, you can't call over units that are already there. So that's a big thing in Spike Feathers where it says call to open rearguard circle because they want you to get rid of your rearguards before you use these abilities. We run once a breeze in case our opponent tried to screw us or not right or anything like that. Then we have 2 Terrible Leanness, which is the new G-Guard from the Fighters Collection. When this unit is placed on the Guardian Circle, you can take a G-Guard from your G-Zone and turn it face up. If you do, you can choose one of your rear guards, and you may put into the soul, which means that you don't have to. And then for every 2 of your rear guard circles that are open, this unit gets plus 10,000 shield. So most of the time, since you only have 5 rear guard circles, you can only get up to 46k. With this G-Guardian, so you'll only, like, if you have 1 rear guard left, there's no point in shoving into the soul because you won't get plus 10k from doing that. Then we have 2 Excellent Cheerleader Alley. I think it's called Airy in English. When this unit is placed on guard circle, if you have 3 or less rear guards, this unit gets plus 5,000 shield, meaning that this unit would just become a 31k for you playing Spike Brothers the way that it's supposed to be played. Then we run 1 Juggernaut Maximum. So what Juggernaut Maximum does is when this unit is placed on the guard circle, you can choose a grade 2 or less rear guard, and you may have that unit gain plus 10k. And if you do have it gain 10k, then this unit gets 10k shield. And then at the end of the battle, that rear guard returns to your the bottom of your deck. So pretty solid lineup we have here, but I'll show you guys how to play it. Right here, we're opening back up our Cardfight area. Alright, so then we're going to load our replay, load Dudley GB8 1. So the first game, I was waiting for my opponent to get here, and then my opponent's playing Chocho. He also has the name Best Genist from My Hero Academia for those of you who that's relevant to. But we ride our grade 2, and then we use our Mecha Trainer to get a Jetter off of it, and then we attack twice. We no guard his Vanguard attack on grade 2. We check a draw trigger. So then we ride Jessica and we play cards. Also, this deck's just really good at like having the cards to rush in the early game. So we do check 2 heals right off the bat, and we do get both of them off, which is amazing. And then he has to ride a non-optimal grade 3 and then use 2 cards to stride. So I was pretty sure based off of that we won this match like this early into the game. But he did check a crit trigger and we checked double draw, even more solidifying the fact that we should win the game from this. So we do go into Dudley Caligula here. And what I should have did instead of doing Dudley Caligula was probably do Geronimo, but I didn't. I forgot about Jessica's on-stride skill, and then Dudley Geronimo would just be able to return cards to my deck. So he rides into Lapria, and then attacks for 11. And he can't attack my Vanguard because it's 13 because of the GB2 of Dudley Jessica, like I was discussing before. So he uses Lapria skill to counter boss 1 and put back 3, and then he draws 3 cards, and then he's going to choose to put out 2. So he does draw a Chocho Tira while he's doing that, which is really good for him because he needs to be on that card, basically. So then he does play the Chocho Tira to the field, and then he gets Chocho Tira from the effect. So it's kind of useless for him to do, in my opinion. So he's attacking my Vanguard. I do no guard. He gets a crit and puts the crit on Vanguard. And power to my rear guard. I put the power to my Vanguard so neither of his rear guards can hit me. Then he uses his crits ability to kind of also want to draw a card, and then he can play a Chocho card from his hand if he so chooses. So he does choose to play a Chocho card, and he plays Chocho player, something like that. So his other rearguard can't hit me because it's 9, and my rearguards are 11. We do go into Dudley Geronimo as our second stride. We use Jessica's skill to get a free card to the board. And then basically this Daisy attacks from the back row, goes to the bottom. That Douglas attacked, then the other Douglas attacked. Then we leave one rearguard, and we attack with our Vanguard. We don't check any triggers, and then we attack with our last card. So keep in mind that we're actually not about to deck out, because it does look like we are going to. But we did check the top 11 off of that effect, so there's like at least 11 cards still in there. So then we guard with 5k because 13. And then we guard with another 5k. Then he Laprias us again and draws 5 cards this time. And chooses to call only 2. So, yeah, so he's only calling 2. And then we decided to... I was telling him that the grade 1 was mandatory to use. So he does have to check top 7 for a Tira and then shuffle. So then we do G-Guard. Even though I have a PG in my hand, I just G-Guarded so that I had a chance of doing the GB8. So we do Terrible Lena's skill, and it's a no pass because of my cross-ridden status. And then we G-Guard again into a regular G-Guard. Then we normal stride into Hellhard 8, and then we play Dudley Ingrams from our hand. So we attack for 19 boosted, or sorry, unboosted because of Hellhard 8's ability. We use Hellhard 8 to put into the soul and put a card from our hand into the soul. Then we attack with Dudley Douglas for 24. We put a card from hand in the soul. Call Dudley Douglas again. It's 24. He G-Guards this one. Put into the soul again. And call a Jessica, which is 21k by itself. So boosted, it's 28. The reason why we're boosting now is because he does have to guard every single attack or he's going to lose. So he did drop another G-Guard, and he drops Citron. Doesn't use the skill, but calls a 5k to the rearguard circle. Then we attack for 21 to a Vanguard, and I think that's when he pretty much realized that he wasn't going to win because I was just going to keep putting cards into my soul, and then I was going to attack with Hellhard 8, and then every Dudley card that I called during the battle phase while I was doing that gave Dudley Ingram plus 3k. So very, very solid combo. You guys can see like how it works and how fun it can be. Although one could argue that I got super lucky in that game, checking double heal and all the draw triggers, even though we do run 12 draw triggers. So then we're doing Dudley GB8 game 2. So we're playing against Gear Chronicle this time, which is actually good for us because we wanted to try out this matchup anyways. So we do ride to grade 1 and attack him, and then he damage checks a Chronojet G. We take a damage from his grade 2, and then we take another damage. Neither of them are draw triggers, but we do draw, which kind of sucks. But we do have like a good rush effect going on the board. So we do check a draw trigger, and this is what I was talking about. Like we counterblast 1, we put a draw trigger into our hand, and then or into our soul, and then we call a card. So we just got free advantage off of a draw trigger, basically. So our opponent attacks us, doesn't check anything. We check a heal, and then we stride as well. Here I decided to go into Dudley Geronimo, so I counterblast 1 and flip Geronimo for its skill. And then I soul blast 1 for my on-stride skill, giving this row plus 10k, and then it goes to the bottom. So then I attack 33, he PGs, and we check a draw trigger, and then we attack him for another big column on the rearguard circle. He goes into Aviator Phoenix the first stride, and he time leaps Chronodran to get Chronojet, Dragon G, and Transit Dragon. However, I do not know why he didn't use Transit Dragon skill right here. Like, it's just kind of like weird to me. But I do PG his Vanguard attack, and then he does check a crit. So I'm like, that's unfortunate. But all we have to do is PG the other attack as well. So we do use Dudley Jetter to stride for free for retiring it, and then we go into a Dudley Caligula. So what we could have done here is actually go into I can't think of that G guard that I was saying that I never used, Dirty Picaro. So we could have went into Dirty Picaro and got better advantage off of this without having to do anything. But he did PG our Vanguard, and then we attacked him for 26. And then we attacked him for 31. And he could not guard it because we were on a, So we didn't even have to be on a Dudley Vanguard to use Turbolaptor. So we could have definitely went into Dirty Picaro and been fine. But we still ended up winning anyways because he only had exactly 31k guard in his hand, and we attacked for 31. So he didn't check a heal trigger. So we won the Gear Chronicle game. Opening up our area again. Alright, so now we're doing our Dudley GB8 3 game. This game, it looks like we played against Gear Chronicle again. I think it was the same person, but he just like changed his build before he came back. Because a lot of the same things happened, but I can't really say that it's the same person because of that. But he rides Delayed Blazer and attacks with that other 9k. Then we take it. We don't check a draw, but thank goodness this game we don't draw a draw. So we're able to just call. We do check a heal trigger, healing off a damage, and then we attack for 21, making him take some early damage. He chooses to not ride, which I was going to Sabreeze him, but it doesn't really matter if I do or not. But he just attacked my rear guard, so I don't mind, because we have a lot of draw triggers in our deck. Like, I don't mind riding to grade 3 first and getting the upper hand by doing that. So he actually goes into Chronos Command Dragon, which I find pretty interesting but pretty ineffective because Spike Brothers actually wants their units in their deck. So I was planning on letting that unit hit anyways as soon as it came out onto the board because I just didn't care what was on my field. So he does check a crit. I check a draw trigger and a Jessica, which is unfortunate that I checked Jessica because I actually wanted to ride it, especially against the Gear Chronicle matchup. We do stride, however, into Dudley Caligula, and then I attack him with Dudley Caligula, shove 2 into the soul, flip a Caligula face up, and then I look at top 11, call 3 units. So that's what I'm talking about getting a board back anyways. Like, if I was going to do Dudley Caligula anyways, like, there's no point in doing Chronos Command, really, because, you know, it's just whatever. But we do check a heal and 2 daisies, so that is what it is. And then he checks the heal as well, and then we attack for 28. And he could barely guard that based on his hand, so I thought that he had, like, a lot better guard in his hand, but he didn't. Then he goes into Split Pegasus right here. And then when he, when he goes into Split Pegasus, I asked him if he was there, and then he just quit the game. So there's no way for me to really tell from that point on what would have happened in the game. I think I would have won based on my hand and my damage amount, but this is Vanguard. We can't always tell based off of that. So I was in a favorable position, but doesn't mean I wouldn't have lost. So I recorded a 4th game for you guys just because that one had a lever. And then our 4th game is against Blasters. So it actually looks like he runs Binon in this deck just because we saw the grade 1 in his hand. So we ride Daisy and end our turn. He rides Lien, which is good for us because that's 1 less PG. Then we don't have a grade 2, so we decide to use Mecha Trainer to get a grade 1 to thin out our deck. We do check a draw trigger, but we do not draw a grade 2, which is unfortunate. He does call a Lu Column and ride Blaster Blade. We take it, and then he uses the skill to Counterboss 1, put into the soul, and call a Blaster Blade. So then he countercharges 1 and gives it plus 3,000 power. I was explaining to him how to give power to a unit within Cardfight area. Then he attacks for 14. We no guard. He checks a heal, but we check a draw. And then we check another draw, and we actually draw a grade 2. So thank goodness for draw triggers. We do check a heal as well, going back down to 3. So he goes into Blaster Blade Exceed, and I got kind of sad because he had 2 Flogels in his hand, and then he checked a crit and a draw. So, yeah. So, he said crit to Vanguard. We check a draw trigger, thank goodness for us, because it would have been kind of like rough life for us to guard his Blaster Blade over and over and over again had we not had the draw trigger. So, then he attacks for 29. And unfortunately, I have to use all my G-guards as normal guards to guard because I'm not in... Like, I'm not on grade 3, so I can't G-guard it. But we pretty much are in a losing situation in this one. But, you know, it is what it is. We did go into Dudley Jessica, so we do get that card. And then we get to Caligula and call 3 units. So then both of our engrams get 3k for every unit that was called. And then we check nothing as our drive check. And that's when I was pretty sure that I was going to lose because we are playing a post GBT11 blaster player because he has blues in his deck. So he probably has Gancelot. So it's like we couldn't guard a Gancelot doing that. But he was trying to figure out how to G-guard. So he G-guards with Marin. And then he Soul Blast 1, goes through his deck, and tries to call a Lien to the field. But I had to let him know that his Lake Maiden Lien wouldn't trigger because in order for it to use its PG ability, it has to be placed from the hand. Otherwise, Lien would be amazing because it would let you PG things that have guard restrict. So he decides to go for... Marin, and then just play a regular grade 1 to the board, and then play a 10k to guard it out. And then we attack him for 17 to his Vanguard, and he just takes it, checks a Flogel. He is able to stride, so pretty much the only way that I was like I'm gonna survive is if he doesn't stride. But he does stride. He goes into Alfred Holy Saver to even make it worse. So he counterboss 1 and flips the Alfred Holy Saver. However, he didn't discard a card. So I never caught that, but I would have lost like whether he discarded a card or not because he did check double critical here. So we did lose the game. But yeah, that has been our FutureFight Vanguard series for GB8 Spikes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also share the video. And for those of you guys who reiterating back to the beginning of the video, please comment below and let me know how you guys would prefer to see me record nationals or my nationals experience. But yeah, check out the description down below. Check out all the crazy new stuff going on. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. Thank you guys for those of you who donated to Patreon. This has been Josh from Cardfight Empire, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Probably, if I can record videos at Nats. But I'll be on a plane trip in a few hours, so Yeah, I'll see you guys when I see you. Have a great night.